Hello, my name is Cathy Madavan and I'm a writer and I'm a speaker and I'm based on the south coast of England. We live just between Southampton and Portsmouth, and my husband is a church leader here. He leads a church called Waypoint Church. And we've got two university age daughters. One of them's back at home now. Her year at university is finished. The other one is actually still in her university town where she's been doing her finals online, which is, all kinds of unexpected and not how she imagined she would finish her time at university at all. I think so many of us are navigating this season with all kinds of disappointments and unexpected challenges and having to adapt and try things in all kinds of new ways. And so, since I had this wonderful opportunity to spend a few mornings with you, which is great because, many of you know I love Spring Harvest and have spoken there for many years. So I just think it's brilliant that we're doing these little devotions every day. And I thought, well, perhaps a really good thing for us to do, always a good thing for us to do actually, is to come back and focus our thoughts around Jesus this morning and the other mornings as well. And so I'm going to look at 4 different people who approached Jesus in different ways. And it's going to be interesting actually, because not only did these people approach Jesus with a very different angles, different motivations, different reasons for coming to Jesus, but also he responded to them in ways that are really eye-opening, really interesting, and hopefully helpful. And I don't know how you're approaching Jesus in this season. It's difficult, isn't it? With church buildings not open and trying to do everything online, some of us feel more connected in our faith than ever. We're really having to dig deep for ourselves. No one else is doing it for us. And others of us are actually really struggling. We've got a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of difficulties and disappointments. And maybe we're wondering, where is Jesus in the midst of all of this? So I hope it's going to be helpful as we look at these 4 different people who approached Jesus. And today I'm going to be looking at some spies who approached Jesus. I wonder if you remember when spies approached Jesus. Well, to be honest with you, they were representatives of the teachers of the law, the Pharisees, the people who really wanted to kind of trip Jesus up in different ways, the chief priests and teachers of the law, the Bible calls them here. And so we're going to go to this passage in Luke 20 from verse 20, where these spies are sent to approach Jesus. Here's what it says from verse 20. Keeping a close watch on him, they sent spies who pretended to be sincere. They hoped to catch Jesus in something he said, so they might hand him over to the power and authority of the governor. So the spies questioned him. "Teacher, we know that you speak and teach what is right and that you do not show partiality, but teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" He saw through their duplicity and said to them, "Show me a denarius," which is a coin. "Whose image and inscription are on it?" "Caesar's," they replied. He said to them, "Then give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God's what is God's." They were unable to trap him in what he said there in public, and, astonished by his answer, they became silent. It's really interesting, isn't it, that these people who came to see Jesus and pretended to be sincere, that Jesus saw right through them. He saw their duplicitousness. And different people came to Jesus with different questions, and some of them were genuine seekers for truth. Some of them were confused. Some of them were desperate about a member of their family who needed healing and had heard about him and heard about the miracles he was performing. But some of them came with mixed motives. And these spies are definitely those with mixed motives that probably been paid to come on behalf of the authorities. How do we approach Jesus in this season? How do we feel as we come towards him? And are we trying to find loopholes and kind of ways to trip Jesus up? Well, if you do this for me, Jesus, then I'll kind of like tune into the sermon, or maybe Jesus, if that happens, then I'll believe you and then I'll trust you. It's so easy for us to come to Jesus with our agendas, with our mixed motives. And actually, sometimes the questions we're asking are more to do with trying to prove our point than to learn more about who Jesus really is. You know, we can come with mixed motives for all kinds of reasons, not just to Jesus, but for each other. We come to each other and we see each other depending on what our attitude is and what our mixed motives are. Now, some people are living on their own in this season, are really finding that difficult, and it can be really hard to read motives and to kind of read body language just over Zoom or over emails, where actually there's very hard to really read what people mean and quite hard to jump to conclusions or to make assumptions if we're not careful. Others of us have been cooped up with the same people for months now, and we're driving each other slightly potty. Or is that just me? Probably not. And I remember reading years ago this brilliant little illustration, which actually I've put in my new book, Irrepressible, that's just come out. And it's a little story about the hummingbird and the vulture. And it's quite useful when we're thinking about our motivations. So this little illustration says that there are these two birds, the hummingbird and the vulture. And they both go about their business all day looking for what it is that they need. So the hummingbird spends all day looking for nectar, looking for that sweet, lovely nectar that gives it life. But the vulture spends all day looking for decay and looking for death, because that's what it feeds on. And the reality is that both of these birds find what it is that they're looking for. They are committed to their cause. They know what it is they need. They know what it is they want. They know what it is that gives them life, and they look for it, and because of that, they find it. Now, the truth is, when you're, for example, living with people day in or day out, we can be hummingbirds or we can be vultures, right? So if there are things I want to find to be thankful for and excited about and passionate about and things to be grateful for, I can find them if I really look for them. I can find the fact that someone's made me a cup of tea, or that the weather's beautiful and I've managed to find a walk, or that I've, read a little daily devotional and that it's been really meaningful and helpful, or that the church service online was great, or that the Zoom quiz was great. If I want to find things to be grateful for, I can find them. But likewise, if I want to find things that are driving me absolutely crazy, they're there. The dishwasher hasn't been unpacked again, or, I can't go to the shops without losing my mind because it's so stressful going around Tesco's right now, or all the things that we had planned, our holidays are all cancelled, and it was our sabbatical year, so we had 3 months of great stuff planned, all gone. And if I focus on that all day, I really would get incredibly depressed. So sometimes it is about thinking, like, what is the focus of my thoughts? What am I looking for? What is my outlook? What is my mindset? And that's not to say that we shouldn't express our disappointment, or that we shouldn't say, actually, things are really hard at the moment. But it is about saying you really do become what you put your attention to. And that's why the Bible often tells us, and Paul tells us, to think on things that are good, that are lovely, that are wholesome, that are positive, because it actually does really make a difference. It's not just about thinking happy thoughts and pretending life's practically perfect in every way, like a sort of spiritual Mary Poppins, but it is about saying there are things to be thankful for. And that's so true when we think about our faith in this season. I just think that it is costly to be a disciple of Jesus. And the whole concept that faith is somehow some wonderful self-help program where it's always the things that feel nice, it's always the things that feel easy, that's just not true. And discipleship in this season, as we try and follow Jesus in this season, as we try and share our faith in this season, as we try and stay faithful to him in this season, is costly. It takes some flipping self-discipline, doesn't it? To say, I will engage even though I'm tired or I'm feeling the strain. Many of us as Christians, just generally, even when it's not a coronavirus issue, sometimes we find ourselves looking at what's the lowest common denominator, what's the least we can get away with, what is the least we can give financially, how can we tick the serving box without it really costing us too much? How can we squeeze prayer into our day without it really being, time in God's presence that is meaningful, but actually quite costly in a way that would prioritize? And what happens if we're not careful is, as we do that, we become like these Pharisees, like the teachers of the law, who become purely religious. It is about what duty I can fulfill, what boxes can I tick, how can I be righteous enough without it really costing me anything. And the religious authorities, as we know in this, were creating all kinds of loopholes in the law so they could get away with one thing but look religious on the other. And they wanted to catch Jesus out because what he was saying was going to cost them. It was going to cost them their status. It was going to cost them significance. It was undermining the authority that they had. And so they wanted to trip him up. Well, as we approach Jesus in this season, let's not be like the spies or like the religious authorities who are trying to maintain their own comfort and their own authority, trying to make sure that their faith fit into the mindset and the beliefs that they'd always had. And it was doing them good in a sense, but it wasn't really spending time with God and getting to know Jesus, who was right there in front of him. I really believe Jesus is right in front of us in this season. And actually, with many of the usual things that we hook our faith onto not being as easily available, maybe we, like many believers around the world, are actually having to work a little bit harder in our faith. We're having to really make intentional decisions to meet with other people. We're having to not just observe and consume things online, but we're actually having to really make a decision to engage with it. And I would encourage you to press in and to press on in this season. Don't just try and get away with what you can with Jesus, or try and, bargain with him, or kind of, squeeze Jesus around what kind of suits your idea of religious or righteous behavior. Let's really decide in this season that we're going to receive that call to follow Jesus again. We're going to receive that call to be disciples. We're going to receive that call to follow him, even when it's costly, and say, God, in this season, I want to know you better. I want to know your word better. I want to pray more. I want to meditate more on your truths. I want to know more of you. I want me and my faith and my household's faith and my church's faith to be stronger at the end of this. I want to be a hummingbird who celebrates the glimpses of grace that I am seeing every day, and not just disappearing down a plug hole of doom in all the things that are challenges. They're both there, but actually Jesus says that he gives us life in all its fullness, and that's not only available when everything's going well. It's available for us now, because life in all its fullness is about being with Jesus and walking with Jesus. And so I would just encourage you today, wherever you are, whether you're in the car now, running now, at home now, wherever you are, just to approach Jesus again today and say, I will follow you. I am a disciple of yours. I love you. It's on your terms, not mine. I don't want to catch you out or do the minimum possible. I love you, Jesus. I will follow you wherever you lead me, because I love you. You are the Saviour of the world. Have a good day.